Cummins, professional magician who specializes in magic with a message. Yes, in 1993, he turned 50 that year. He started what has become the Fantastic Magic Camp, a fully inclusive educational program for children and the grown-ups who love them. And now, please welcome the fantastic Kent Cummins.
Did you ever wish you could use magic to make kids behave? Last year, I celebrated my 70th year as a magician. But you don't have to be a magician in your work with children. I've got a few tips that I think will help. You know, I ran Magic Camp for 18 years, but when your kids turn 18, you got to let them go. And to be honest, I didn't have that great a vision for Magic Camp. I knew that learning puppetry had helped me when I was really shy as a little kid, and that learning juggling helped me overcome a lack of athletic skills, and that learning magic gave me the self-confidence to speak in front of a group. And I thought that maybe a new generation of children would benefit from the same things. And I was right. But what I didn't realize was there were so many kids who were being left behind. I remember a phone call. Magic Camp, this is Kent. It was Susan. And she said, my little girl Brenna loves magic. She says she wants to come to Magic Camp. Okay, great. Well, but she has Down syndrome. What's that? See, when I was a kid, they called it mongoloidism. I literally didn't even know what Down syndrome was. So Susan explained it to me. And then she said, well, can she still come to your camp? And by now I'm getting frustrated. I said, well, I don't know. Is she evil? Fortunately, Susan laughed and said, no, she's the sweetest child you'd ever meet. And I said, well, why wouldn't we want her in our camp? And she said, well, and she listed all of the mainstream camps in Austin that had turned her down. And I said, well, I can't do that. Americans with Disabilities Act. And she said, yes, I know. But why would I send Brenna to a place where she isn't wanted? Well, we want her. And Brenna became one of our favorite campers. And as she got older, went into the counselor program. And then we had a little boy in a wheelchair, and we had a guy with Tourette syndrome, and a little girl with PDD-NOS, and kids on the autism spectrum. Child by child, label by label, we learned how to work with these kids. We became a model for inclusion. And by inclusion, I don't mean a separate class for kids with Down syndrome. No, that's not what I mean. What I mean is a place where children, regardless of their label, can come and succeed. And how did we do that? Well, I said I'd give you 3 quick tips, and I will. First of all, tip number 1, recognize that all kids have special needs, and they're not always obvious. I'll explain that in just a moment. And rule number 2, hey, rewards and accommodation always work better than punishment. I've got an interesting example. And then tip number 3, love them for who they are, not for who you think they should be. Let me explain. Tip number 1, all kids have special needs. See, I was speaking for a group of parents of gifted and talented children. And when it was my turn to speak, I got up and I said, well, Magic Camp will be really good for these children with special needs. And the temperature of the room dropped. And I said, hey, wait, no, I was a National Merit Scholar. I know what you're talking about. The simple fact is everybody learns a little differently. And sometimes a mainstream learning environment doesn't work. Everybody's got some kind of a special need. And sometimes those special needs aren't exactly obvious. I remember a couple counselors. I'm going to call one Cindy and one Julie. And Cindy, well, at age 14, she had a modeling contract. She was on the honor roll. Everything was perfect about Cindy. And then Julie had been diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. She couldn't work in a group. She would get frustrated and angry, even violent. And one time Cindy did something that we didn't think she should, and we came down on her pretty hard. And she said, hey, you wouldn't have come down on Julie so hard. And I said, yeah, but Julie has special needs. And I was younger then. And it was a little more than a year later when I learned that Cindy came from a home that was about as dysfunctional and unpleasant and awful as you could imagine. constantly abused by her father, not supported by her mom. The whole fragile shell, the facade that she had built wasn't really real. And that's why they tell us don't judge a book by its cover. You have to read pretty far into that book before you really understand the story. And you have to learn about the kids that are in your care before you really understand how to take care of them. Now, tip number 2 was that rewards and accommodations always work better than punishment. In the early days of camp, we tried timeout. It never accomplished anything useful. But I want to tell you about a little boy that called himself Flush the Great. He made a t-shirt that says Flush the Great, and he was hyperactive. I mean, he would run across the room and throw himself into the wall, literally bouncing off the walls. And we just didn't know what to do with him. He could not sit still. And somebody came up with the bright idea, let's put Flush in charge of our juggling supplies. And that gave him something to do. If he had to get up, he would get up and go organize the juggling supplies or clean one of the ones that was dirty. And then when it was time for juggling class, he'd bring the stuff out. And then he'd pick up drops and he'd take care of everything. And he'd take everything back and make sure it was organized. We gave him something positive to do, and he became one of our favorite campers. Yeah, punishment doesn't work. See, the simple fact is, kids want to be liked. They want to succeed. They want to have fun. They don't want to be punished. They don't want to fail. They don't want to be hated. But sometimes the environment doesn't support the kind of kid they are. And that's where we have to work harder. And tip number 3, it's an easy one. Love them for who they are, not who you think they should be. Are you familiar with Gardner's multiple intelligences? If not, Google multiple intelligences. Learn about it. It practically changed my life. Because, see, I said I was a National Merit Scholar. I was really smart, but I couldn't throw a football. Later in the Army, I couldn't throw a grenade. I couldn't fix the car. There were so many things I couldn't do. I felt like a fraud. But what Gardner realized is there are multiple intelligences. I may be smart with words, but Ricky Williams is smart with athletics, but he has trouble with social. But some people are really smart with social. Some people are smart with this, some people are smart with that, some people are smart with music. The original book listed 7 different intelligences, but there are many more. I'm sure there are over a dozen types of intelligence, multiple intelligences. You see, we need to help each kid develop their special gift rather than punish them because they don't have the gift that we think they should have. The whole no pass, no play thing doesn't make sense to me. If somebody's gift is in music, you're not going to let them be in the band because they can't do English and math very well? No. Make sure they have plenty of time in the band. Music is their gift, and then help them with the English and math because we do need those skills. But some of us are good at some things and some of us are good at others. And these are the kinds of things that we learned at Magic Camp. I mean, would you punish Adam, who was in a wheelchair because he wouldn't run laps with the other kids? A boy that was blind, visually impaired, would we punish him because he didn't follow instructions that we wrote on the whiteboard? We had a girl who was deaf, who was hearing impaired. Would we punish her because, oh my gosh, she didn't follow the directions we gave her verbally? No, of course not. Isn't that silly? No, nobody would do that. And yet, we punish kids that are dyslexic because they can't read instead of helping them interpret the code so that they can read. And kids that are hyperactive, oh my gosh, put them in the corner, send them home to principal, send them home. Kids that are hyperactive, their brains are wired differently. Punishing them for who they are doesn't really make sense. What makes sense is trying to find out who they really are, what strengths they have, what gifts. So, number 1, recognize that all kids have special needs and they may not be obvious. Learn them, find them. Number 2, rewards, accommodations always works better than punishment. Don't punish kids for being who they are. And that leads us to number 3, which is, come on, love them for who they are. Now, I think I've got time to show you a quick magic trick. I'm going to teach you how to pull a rabbit out of a hat. Are you ready? Don't tell anybody. It's a secret. But if you want to pull a rabbit out of a hat, you have to put a rabbit in the hat first. Yeah, who would have thought? That's it. If I want to pull something out of a hat, I have to put something in the hat first. Huh. And you know, it works that way in school. If you want to get something out of school, you've got to put everything you've got into school. If you want to get a merit badge in Scouts, you've got to put everything you've got into Scouts. If you want to succeed in your job, you've got to work in your job. You put yourself into it. If you want a great family life, put yourself into your family. Put the family first. See, the more that you put of yourself into things, the more you're going to get out. It's the simple fact. It's what you put into it that you get out of it. Thank you.
That was incredible, Kent Cummins. Kent, somebody is bound to want you to come and speak to them. How would they get in touch with you?
Well, if somebody wants to learn more about Fantastic Magic Camp, you just go to magiccamp.com. If you'd like to connect with me personally, it's pretty easy. Send me an email, kent@kentcummins.com. And now I'm going to disappear.
That was incredible. Thank you very much, Kent.